everybody. Here we go!
In case of emergency, the exits are here, anywhere. Keep your hands and arms inside the carpet.
Name is Hades, Lord of the Dead. Hi, how you doing? We dance, we kiss, we schmooze, we carry on, we go home happy. What do you say? Come on.
I only hope that we never lose sight of one thing, that it was all started by a mouse.
Welcome, Ohana, to the Disney Guys Uncensored. This is episode 74, recorded on August 16th, 2020. We are your hosts, Tim and Jordana, and on tonight's episode, we will give you all the details on our recent trips back to Walt Disney World and try to give you an answer to that very, very difficult question, should you go to Disney in 2020? So come and journey with us as we put on our masks, check our temperatures, and make sure we stay socially distanced and get back to the magic. All right, not really anything in BuzzTube tonight. So let's just move right on over to a super quick Disney news desk. So Disney and the Actors Equity Association have finally reached an agreement about COVID testing for performers and their families. They decided that together that Disney will set up an on-site COVID testing center. It will be run by a third party, I believe the same third party who does the temperature checks, and that will be open to members of Equity as well as their families. This will pave the way for live entertainment to return to the parks, a thing that I think both Jordan and I probably feel is much needed right now. There's no word on the timeline for that yet, but we will definitely keep you up to date both here on the show and post stuff to Johanna as we hear when that entertainment will be returning. Got anything on that, Jordana?
No, I mean, it was definitely it's another thing that Disney is missing, as far as the entertainment, the shows, the live shows go. And, obviously with like parades and fireworks, it's just another thing to add to the list. So seeing these come back will be really nice, I think, overall. So I'm excited that they have a step in the right direction.
Yeah, I think this will really loosen things up a bit. And if anybody listened, I think we mentioned on the show or saw the video, a lot of the actors were very ready to get back to work. It was just that they needed to know that they could do so safely since their job does not allow them to wear masks or be socially distanced from each other and the other cast members. All right, and that is it. Slow News Week. So now on to the topic of the week. So, topic of the week. As you might know, Jordana and I both took separate but very close together, a week apart?
Yes. Yep.
Trips back to Walt Disney World. I went first towards the end of July, and Jordana went right at the beginning of August. Mm-hmm. So right at the top, we want to get that question out of the way. Do we, the Disney Guys Uncensored, think you should go to Disney in 2020? And by that, we mean Disney as is now before, while COVID is still raging and before a vaccine has been found. The Disney parks have been open for about a month, and we both obviously checked them out. So we want to share our experiences with you and try our best to answer that question. And right off the top, I'm going to say the Disney Guys Uncensored question is no, you probably should not go if any of these are a yes. If it's going to be your first trip or your first trip in a very long time. If you have significant comorbidities for COVID-19, respiratory problems, high blood pressure, just beat cancer, currently are going through chemo, severe obesity, diabetes, any of that stuff. If you're going to spend your trip worrying about COVID more than you're going to be able to relax and kind of enjoy Disney, or the opposite, if you're going to feel an artificial sense of security in the Disney bubble and are going to kind of let your guard down and not keep up with the hand washing and the mask wearing and the socially distancing. If you don't think that you or your family can handle wearing a mask everywhere, including outdoors, no matter if it's 99 degrees out or raining or what, I don't think you should go if your ideal Disney days are meticulously planned front to back, and going with the flow during a Disney day is difficult for you. Jordana, you got any?
Yeah, so I mean, just to add to that, if live entertainment and parades, character meet and greets, if that's your thing, if that's a really big part of your Disney experience, then it's definitely not a good time to go. Nighttime entertainment and nightlife are also a big factor in your enjoyment of Disney. It's not the time to go, just because most parks are closing earlier, as well as Disney Springs, there's not a ton going on. You have to eat at certain restaurants and order specific dishes. Some restaurants are still closed, as well as, I don't know if you experienced this, Tim, some of the restaurants don't have their full menus right now.
Yeah, definitely experienced that.
Yeah, us too. If you really need the dining plan to really enjoy your trip, which this is something that my husband and I actually always do, and we obviously didn't do it this time. We made it through okay. You understand that you are going to pay the full Disney price without getting the full Disney experience. And above all else, you're not going to treat the cast members with patience, understanding, respect during this incredibly complicated and difficult period overall in history. They didn't cause COVID. It's not their fault, and they're doing the best they can in the circumstances.
Yeah. And I think these last two are the most important ones.
Right.
Because I haven't seen it in Ohana of all places, but basically Disney Twitter, Disney Reddit, Disney Facebook, Disney anything, people saying, oh, if Disney's going to be open and they're not going to have this stuff, why should I have to pay full price for it?
Right.
Well, the fact of the matter is Disney being open is still losing millions of dollars a day, and then being open is just a way to stem the bleeding. Right. So they're not going to offer you a discount because they're already losing money having you be there in the first place. Yeah. And in that same vein, if the cast members could stay home and still put food on their table and live their lives, they probably wouldn't be there. I mean, I will say the cast members there, and I'm going to get into it when we get to our trip reports, definitely seem to really be loving their job. And there is actually some that Disney magic when it comes to service that kind of I feel like has been lacking in the last couple of years. But at the end of the day, I mean, these are people working for, in a lot of cases, not that much money during a pandemic. So, I mean, if a cast member tells you to do something, you tell you, hey, you need to wear your mask over your nose, or please don't walk and drink, or space out in a queue, don't be a jerk. And if you even think that, even if you've been out all day in the heat and in your favorite restaurant didn't have your favorite dish and you couldn't get an ADR someplace else, if you even think that those sorts of things are going to make you snap at a cast member, just don't go. It's not worth it for you. It's not worth it for them.
No, I agree.
So
you have to be lenient in these times in general, and it just makes it a better experience for everybody, yourself included.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So if you honestly can answer no to all those things, then at least me personally, I think that this could very well be one of the best times ever to visit Walt Disney World. How about you?
I completely 100%, 1,000% agree. My husband and I, just to kind of, I guess, start it, we said that this was our favorite trip. We're introverts in general, so having people kind of keep their distance and, not feeling like you're in line with a million people who are sweating and gross and, everybody's distance. We enjoyed it. We still had a blast overall, and I can't wait to get into it overall.
Yeah, no, for sure. So let's get into it.
Yeah.
So how did you end up deciding to go during this time frame?
So we we wanted to try to go every year for my son's birthday. He is going to be 2 in September 8th. And we thought it would be better to move up our trip due to the fact that he is not comfortable wearing a mask just yet. And if you don't know that, if you're in Disney World right now, those that are 2 and over need to wear a mask. So we already got questioned a lot. Obviously, 22 months isn't too far from 24 months. So we decided to move it up a month. But we are big Disney people. I mean, besides my career, that promoting going to Disney is safe right now, we just needed a vacation. So that's why we went during this time.
Yeah, so our story is a little similar. We actually kind of played the numbers games with guessing when it was going to reopen, and we actually had a trip planned for the first week of June with one of Rachel's, actually with Rachel's boss and her daughter, who are also big Disney people like us. They wanted to go, and because her boss was having knee surgery, so she was not going to be comfortable going, having to walk in the parks, or, recovering from surgery is not a time you're supposed to go when this COVID stuff is going on. So we kind of had estimated when the parks would reopen, looked at some rumors, and we had booked for the first weekend in June, and then obviously that got canceled. So once the reopening dates did come out, I was on the phone the first day they allowed people with canceled reservations to rebook, and rebooked for the third week of July.
Right.
And that's how we ended up going down. And my friend Jordana Izzo here was able to help us out a lot with Travelmation, made the process a lot easier for us. And so that's kind of how we ended up going. We had a planned trip, and we moved it to as close as we could to the reopening. Obviously, my fiance and I, Rachel, are kind of young and healthy. We don't mind wearing masks. We both work in fields where we were all able to isolate at work when we got back, and we decided that we felt safe going. So let's kind of break down the trip into the stages of the trip, I guess is the best way to do it. So let's start at the beginning, as you do. How was your travel/arrival kind of experience?
Yeah, so I started off coming from Providence, so that's PVD Airport, and it was completely empty. We take the first flight out always, which was actually later for us because we usually take like the 5 a.m., 6 a.m. flight. So the only one that Southwest had available that was nonstop was an 8 a.m. flight. So we got through security probably in like less than 5 minutes. And we sat in a corner of the airport, and no one really talked to us. No one bothered us. No one came near us. We felt pretty safe, safe enough for, my son to hang out and watch on his iPad his show, and then get a coffee and just kind of hang out for a little bit.
Now, what day of the week was this? You said the airport was empty, so
It was a Saturday. So.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so it was completely empty. I think our flight was also, still at 50% or whatever. We had no one in front of us or behind us the flight down. We flew Southwest too.
So that's an important thing to know. Southwest and JetBlue are the only airlines I know for sure that at least through the end of next month are still guaranteeing like a 50% capacity on their flights. So I know at least for Rachel and I that those were the only two airlines we even looked at for the flight down.
Right. I mean, I have like a Southwest credit card. I use my points and stuff a lot. So, and that's honestly just because like the free baggage and stuff like that.
Yeah, we always fly Southwest as well, but especially now with their rules.
Right, sure. Exactly. But on the flight with Southwest, there was no drink service. They had ice waters to offer, and then they had snacks that they could give out. but that was it on the flights. You flew Southwest as well, correct?
Yep.
Okay. And then I know that my experience once we got to MCO was a little bit different. So do you want to talk about yours first?
Yeah, so we flew to Hartford, and I don't know if anybody knows, but Connecticut, we're kind of, I live in Connecticut, unlike these guys who live one state over Rhode Island. We're quote unquote doing the best when it comes to the COVID numbers. So we have some of the strictest restrictions for travel and stuff. So, and Southwest was still flying that 6:30 flight direct out of Bradley, which I was surprised, but that was the flight we were on. And we actually flew out on a Thursday morning, and Bradley was packed.
Oh my God.
Busier than normal when Rachel and I fly out on Saturday morning to go to Florida. Anybody's familiar with Bradley International, which is such a misnomer. I think the only international flights go to like one Caribbean island, and that makes it international. But I digress. Both security lines at Bradley are open. Both security lines are never open, Bradley. So I don't know. I think it was right around the time where maybe business travel was really starting up in earnest again, nationwide. So that's the only thing I can think of why it was so packed. But again, our flight was a little bit over a third full. And despite despite Southwest having the free baggage, because as we've mentioned on the show a couple of times now, Magical Express is not doing the magical baggage to your room due to some logistic issues between MCO and Disney right now. So we wanted to spend as little time in the Orlando airport as possible, not just to have more time at Disney, but also because at the time of our trip, Florida was kind of a COVID disaster, and that was the most unregulated part of our trip. So we kind of played the odds that with Southwest booking the flights more empty, that they wouldn't care if our carry-ons weren't exactly the right size. So we both packed like medium-sized suitcases, and our hunch played out. They did say to everybody, we're enforcing the two items per person rule. If you have more than that, you're gonna have to gate check it. But they specifically were not. They said they were not gonna check the size of things. So we did only hand luggage, which was nice.
And I mean, that was easier for you guys because you guys only did a few nights. Us.
Yeah, we were only there for four nights. So.
4 nights, right? And I mean, you're obviously 2 adults too. Me with my son, we had to pack diapers and everything, so we ended up taking 3 suitcases. And this was probably the biggest pain in the ass of my trip. Was once you land at Orlando International, you take like the little the monorail.
I think it's officially called the Air Train, I believe.
The Air Train. Okay. Well, we take it back to the main building, and then there's 2 sides. There's side A and side B. So our luggage. So you're on the 3rd floor once you get there. Our luggage was on the 2nd floor of side A. We had to go back up to the 3rd floor, go to side B, and go to the 1st floor to get to MCO. So that was a lot more elevator time than I was ready for. And plus dragging the stroller to the Magic Express with 3 of our luggages, just 2 of us. That was probably... that was a little bit more of a pain in the ass than I was ready for, and that's why I wish that the Magic Express or the luggage service was still available. But that's my only kind of downside about the flight and traveling in general.
Now, before we get to my arrival experience, did you bring the stroller because of COVID? Would you normally rent a stroller, or do you guys just bring the stroller regardless and you're not stroller renters? Because I know a lot of my friends have kids.
We're not stroller renters just because with the stroller, you can actually bring it up to the gate. And then once you get off the plane, like literally off the plane, there's some guy bringing it up the stairs right there. And you can go up the terminal with the stroller. So it's a little bit easier for us, and as far as controlling my son and everything, just keeping him in the stroller from literally the time you get on the plane to the time you get off the plane.
Okay, that makes a lot of sense. These are the kind of things that before you have kids, you don't have to think about or worry about.
Exactly.
So seeing as we only took hand luggage, and we were we touched down shortly after 8 o'clock in the morning at MCO. MCO was pretty much deserted. We put on a second paper surgical mask over our cloth mask that we wore on the plane, and headed straight down the center of the aisle in Terminal C to the air train. Took it right to the central hub, went down the escalators, and headed right to that Magical Express spot. I was really happy to see that, I think a couple days prior to us arriving, we didn't know till we got there, MCO had started. MCO, for you guys who don't know, is the code for the Orlando International Airport. Yeah. Because ORD is another airport, I think, in Chicago. I believe that's Midway. Yeah, confusing. But anyway, so they had a mandatory mask rule, and we saw most people following it. But we were only in the non-Magical Express part of the airport for maybe 10 minutes. We had a car to ourselves on the air train, which was nice. So yeah. So we got to the Magical Express, and we actually, I should not say we, I had Jordana do our Magical Express stuff because they were not letting you do it online or the app to set up during the booking part of your trip. And we actually got the Magical Express letter, but we did not get it until the day before we flew. And the 4 families in front of us for Magical Express, we all heard them talking to each other. Did you get the letter? And no one else had the letter. And they would get up to the guy. The magic bands would beep and go red instead of the green. And they'd have to look them up and pull their hotel reservation and say, yes, you can take them at block, or no, you can't. And we were the only ones. So it seems like they were still trying to get that kink worked out. And then so we got right through after those people got checked. They still are splitting the Magical Expresses up in the same way they would pre-pandemic, which is actually very interesting because so many of the hotels right now are not open yet or reserved for the NBA bubble league. And we were staying at the Polynesian, which shares a Magical Express with only the campground and the Grand Floridian. And the Grand Floridian is basically closed to the public. And there's not really anybody camping in Florida in the end of July because it's 1,000,000 degrees and 100% humidity.
Correct.
So we had an entire Magical Express bus to ourselves.
Which is pretty sweet.
Very cool. How was your Magical Express experience? Is that what you guys did, or?
Yeah, so we did use the Magic Express as well. We stayed at Pop Century, which obviously has more people and is the only value resort open right now. So when we got on the Magic Express, they pretty much gave us a row, I think it was A through F. And they said, you get these 2 seats, you get these, seats. We had one row on one side and one on the other. They said stay in that row, and then the row in front of us was empty and the row behind us was empty. And we filled that whole bus. So there was more people. However, they were still distancing, with COVID and everything. So I still felt pretty safe. You had to keep your mask on the entire bus ride. So, but yeah, no, it was still a safe ride overall, even if ours was more packed than Tim's.
Yeah. If you are lucky enough to, for some reason, get a Magical Express that is only your party, you do not have to keep your mask on the whole time because everybody on the bus is in your party.
Right.
That's advice that probably will apply to no one. But
right. The once in a time chance. So
yeah. So
talk about where you stayed. What resort were you?
Oh yeah. So that's what I'm just gonna ask you. So we were at the Polynesian, which if you've been paying attention, the Polynesian just had its opening date pushed way back. But due to the fact that Disney Vacation Club is a timeshare real estate interest. Florida has very strict timeshare laws to prevent people from getting ripped off. So basically Disney had to open all the DVC portions of all the properties to allow people to use those points, because technically they own those parts of the properties, not Disney.
Right.
So the Polynesian DVC, the longhouses that are DVC were open. Now, Rich and I are not DVC members, but at the time that we rebooked our trip, there was a limited number of the DVC rooms at all the DVC resorts except the Grand Floridian that they were allowing you to book with cash. So that is how we ended up at the Polynesian, despite it not being scheduled now to open until I believe October.
Right.
So that was really cool. So basically all the main buildings right off the Grand Ceremonial House were empty. Ohana is not open, and neither is the bar connected to Ohana, and nor is Trader Sam's, which I don't expect Trader Sam's to open for a good long time because, one, it's a bar that falls under the Florida bar ordinance, and even once that's lifted, the way Disney is handling social distancing with dining, which we'll get into in a little bit, it basically is not possible with Trader Sam's.
That's it. Right.
But Kona Cafe was open, and Captain Cook's was open. Both pools were open. DVC rooms at the Polynesian, if you ever get a chance to stay in one, are absolutely beautiful, enormous. 2 bathrooms, despite all the DVC rooms at Polynesian being studios. You don't have a choice of how 1-bedroom studio or 2-bedroom like a lot of the other DVC resorts. They are giant studios that have 2 bathrooms, which was made getting ready in the morning easy because Rich and I just each took a bathroom for the whole trip and had our own bathrooms to get ready in every morning, which was cool. We were on the ground floor, which was nice. We were on the very far side of the resort, so we were far away from the Grand Ceremonial House and the monorail, but we were directly adjacent to the TTC and those monorails and the bus stop. So that was very convenient. And instead of having like a balcony style porch, we had like a patio with a table and stuff. We could walk right out into this like lawn, which was really nice in the mornings for having your coffee and stuff.
Awesome.
And how was your stay at Pop?
So we got a preferred pool view room, which is like the highest room you can get at Pop. And then I also opted for a top floor. And so our room was literally the last one furthest from the elevators, which was nice because there was nobody walking by our room ever. And we were also closest to the main building. So, we could go down the stairs real quick to go to the main building, or we had to walk to the elevators, which isn't that bad either. We opted out of mousekeeping. I don't know if you did this as well. Just so people weren't in our room, because we were kind of a little sketched out with that. But just a side note, if you do, they used to offer gift cards. If you opted out, they are no longer offering that. But what they will do is they will still do daily security checks just to make sure the room's still in order, but they won't touch anything. But pretty much we went to the pool daily. And I think you said that you did the same thing, Tim. But they were pretty much, so they would close when they were at capacity, which was different than, a normal capacity. So you had to get there right at the right time. Otherwise, a lot of people were there. And they would obviously close if it was raining. With thunder and lightning and stuff, they have to close for at least a half hour as a precaution. But with the pools, if it is raining and there's no thunder and lightning, they were still open. We stayed in once when it was like sprinkling, but then we ended up going back just because it kind of got a little chilly. And then.
So the pool capacity thing, that's interesting to hear. Now you did go like 10 days after us. And I should say we were there the first full week all 4 parks were open.
Right.
So there were certain aspects of my trip that definitely had the feeling of them still kind of getting things worked out and figured out. There was no capacity enforcement with the pools. Now, that didn't really matter for the lava pool, which is the big feature pool with the water slide and the volcano,
Right.
and the bar at Poly, because the feature pools have really limited hours, basically to the daytime. Now, I know they've been expanded out a little bit towards the night now, because the quote unquote quiet pools or DVC pools, you sometimes hear them referred to as, are the ones that are open late, and they're not that big, and they were packed our whole trip. So I like to go for a swim at night when I get back from the parks, and every night it was kind of iffy for me. Like I had to kind of find my own little corner of the pool to socially distance in, or wait until real late to do it, because there was just more people than I have ever seen at one of those quiet pools in any Disney trip that I've taken in a while.
And there was one day, which is weird for us, but there was one day where we went to the pools. There was probably like 3 families in the Hippy Dippy pool, which is Pop Century's main pool, which was like, it was just like baffling. Like it was like, I don't know, 2:00 in the afternoon. We're looking at the pool and we're like, there's no one there. Like we need to go in there right now because there's no one there. It wasn't like it wasn't a storm was coming or anything. It was literally so sunny. I think I sent you guys a picture and I was like, look at this. There's no one here. So that was pretty nice.
We had the same experience. We did do a resort day, even though it was a short trip.
Yeah.
And our resort day, during the day, the pool was really empty. The big thing that shocked me about capacity enforcement actually is at the Polynesian and all deluxes, all the pools have a hot tub. And I expected the hot tubs just to be closed. The hot tubs are open, and the hot tub at night at the quiet pool would just be people shoulder to shoulder who weren't even in the same party, and I was just not getting involved with that. But during the day, the hot tub was empty at the main pool, so that was nice to actually get to use that a little bit.
We had a chance to check out the splash pad, or like the little kiddie pool area at Pop Century. My son absolutely adored it. It was his favorite part. He would sit there and play with the little water fountains and stuff. And then he actually got over his fear of swimming a little bit. So we were able to put him in a little puddle jumper, and he would kick around, and he was loving it. Also at Pop Century, the Skyliner, it's a game changer when it's running, and like non-peak times. So from Pop to Hollywood Studios, it's probably about like 12 minutes. From Pop to Epcot, it's about 20. It shut down one day, all day, just for maintenance and stuff. We had to take the buses. So the bus area got a little bit crazy. And then when we took the bus to Epcot, when we were going to go back to the resort, the Skyliner was open. So we were like, oh, all right, let's just hop on the Skyliner. And they told us, like, as we're getting on the Skyliner, they're like, oh, by the way, the Skyliner's not running to Art of Animation and Pop right now, so you're going to have to take a bus from Caribbean. So we're like, oh, all right, there must be like a direct bus because there's no other resorts that it really goes to that the Skyliner's not open. No, this bus went to Boardwalk and then something else. And I was like, are you serious? Like so it literally that day, it took us an hour to get back to the resort, which we would have gladly walked back to the front of the park.
Yeah. So since we're getting into transportation, you said when the Skyliner is running, was there a strict stop time they were enforcing with the Skyliner?
What do you mean by stop time?
So, well, for example, in our case, the monorail. First of all, the monorail is only running TTC to Magic Kingdom and Resort Loop to Magic Kingdom. There is no Epcot monorail currently. And it just stops. It normally the monorail runs the resort loop for many, many, many hours into the night in case people want to resort hop and go to the bars of the different monorail resorts or have ADRs. No, it basically stops within a half an hour of Magic Kingdom closing, which was extremely inconvenient for us.
I took a picture of the thing. I think it was a half hour after closing as well. Because you think about it, but Hollywood Studios closed at 8, right? And Epcot was 9. 9. So I think that they stopped around 9:30.
Okay.
Yeah, so that was there. I thought you meant like stop for cleaning.
No.
But the good thing about the Skyliner, again, being our, socially distanced selves, was that you got your own little cabin, where you didn't have to squeeze families in there with you. So it was nice just to kind of put the stroller in, and my husband and I could sit and relax while we rode the Skyliner. It was like 100 degrees every day. I think our last day it felt like 110. We never felt, that the Skyliner was too hot, but it was always constantly moving. I think we stopped once, but it wasn't really that bad as far as airflow and stuff like that. But yeah, as far as the dining goes at Pop Century, the only dining is the quick service, and that's mobile order. I did order 2 burgers and a side dish of pasta, and it took me almost an hour at peak time, which was my fault. We were already at the resort. We should have ordered earlier. But other than that, it was pretty convenient. I ordered from my room, would say I'm here, it'd be ready in like 5 minutes. It is a one-way traffic, so you kind of walk through, if you know Pop Century, you walk through everything Pop to the dining room, where they usually have that open area where everybody kind of walks through and picks what they want. They have just tables set up where they put like section 1, section 2, section 3, and on your mobile app you would say, your order is ready at section 2, and you'd go to section 2 and get it. And it was a sealed bag, and they said if the sticker says this isn't sealed, please tell a cast member. Beverage stations are closed to get your own drink, but there is a cast member there just kind of refilling, or not refilling, but filling up beverages at the station. And you can eat inside. There's not a lot of people in there. And they also have a couple tables set up outside. We usually brought it to our room, but we did eat at one of the tables inside at one point. So yeah, but like I said, there was literally no one over there.
Yeah. So, and as I went through already, no Ohana, no Trader Sam's. Right. Captain Cook's was open, which is the quick service at Polynesian. Due to Polynesian only having its DVC buildings open, there was never really a wait for quick service. It was mobile order only, but you put it in and you were waiting for however long it took whatever you ordered to be prepared.
Right.
Same thing, drink stations closed. You just flashed them. If you had a refillable mug, you flashed them that, and they would give you a cup of whatever you wanted. And if you wanted a refill, you had to go back up, and they get you a new cup. There were nothing that you touched was ever going to go back into a food service area.
Exactly.
That was the way that the quick services were set up. And then Kona Cafe was open. We did not do Kona.
I did Kona. I can't wait to talk about it. I will hold on to it, but
we will get to dining. One last note, though, on I think this is super important. Jordana mentioned the buses. I did not. We did way more buses for staying at the Polynesian than I expected to due to the weird monorail service. Mm-hmm. We had dinner at the Contemporary the night after we went to Magic Kingdom. When we got done, it was after 8:30, so there was no monorail. So they had like a bus called Monorail that you could get on if you were staying at a monorail resort that ran the monorail loop, but it ran very infrequently. And that was kind of annoying. But the buses, and this is super important. Jordan, you mentioned missing a bus, right? Because of crowding or no?
Yes. Yep.
Yes. Yeah, so the buses are divided into 9 zones, and those zones contain between 3 and 6 seats, depending on where they are. Mm-hmm. This goes for all the buses, whether it's going to resort, Disney Springs, the fake monorail loop, to a theme park from a theme park. It's going to have these 9 zones. The bus gets there. You will not just walk on the bus. The bus driver will get out, and people, at least when we were there, were tremendously respectful of this and do. It really is important that it's first come, first serve, because if I was on a solo trip, it does not matter. I would be assigned, hopefully, a zone with only 3 seats, but I would be the only person in that zone,
Yes.
which means that potentially 9 people could fill up a bus. And for us, this was this could have been a problem with Hollywood Studios, because there were so many people at the bus stop trying to get that first bus to Hollywood Studios so that you can get in there and get your Rise of the Resistance boarding pass.
Right.
And we were one of the first people there because we had gotten some bad info that for specifically Hollywood Studios, the buses were running up to an hour before the gates opened, and that was not the case. And luckily, people were nice because that bus was going to fill up, and people said, no, you guys were here for a long time. Totally take a seat. But the buses, I mean, that's great for the social distancing, and, they are going way above and beyond when it comes to that. But just know that if you're going down there, that you might be waiting even longer than normal because they're not running as many buses as they normally are, and they are putting way fewer people on those buses.
Right. Yeah, no, I agree. One of the things was that with the barriers and everything, it's like the front half of the bus is like 1, 2, and 3. So like me and my son would sit on one side and my husband in the stroller on the other side. So that ended up, I mean, it's a pain to wait, but it's also nice to not take a bus and not be standing up and people standing in front of you or whatever the case is. I remember one time when we went down for my baby moon, I was 6 months pregnant, standing on the bus, holding on for dear life, like making sure I didn't fall. So I think, I think it is what it is, but also with it being Pop Century and there's just lines everywhere, they're trying to get as many people out as possible. So there were times where there were 3 Magic Kingdom buses just lined up. Same thing when the resort or when the Skyliners went down.
So just out of curiosity, with the value resorts being either the most popular or the second most popular, but usually the most crowded category resorts on property, and with Pop being the only one open, did Pop feel crowded? Did it feel like you guys have stayed at Pop at least once before. Did it feel like a normal Pop, or did it feel like a ghost town? Like what was the crowd level at Pop?
It was definitely less than usual, but it still seemed like it was taking, like I'll say, for example, the lines as far as for the Skyliner or for the bus, the lines seemed longer, but that's only because everybody was distancing. So, you'd have, 2 bus loads taking up the whole bus queue, but the actual line would go down, down the street. So it seems longer, and it seems like it's taking up a lot more space, but the crowds really weren't that bad. It was definitely still lower.
Okay. So, but do you think all the buildings at Pop were probably open?
No, all the buildings are not open. I think the 90s and the 80s were still closed. So it's only the 50s, 60s, and 70s right now, which are the 3 buildings that are closest to the main park.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
So
because the Polynesian, despite the one pool being crowded at night, felt like a ghost town because such a small percentage of that resort is DVC, and nothing that's not DVC is open. So it was downright bizarre to walk around like the gardens and the lawns and just see no one at one of like the largest hotels on property.
Right. Definitely.
Yeah, so we already started on it, but let's dive into that all important part of a Disney vacation, the dining. I think we had some really different experiences here, largely due to when our trips were and how they were planned. So I'll just start off. So because our original reservation was our original trip reservation was for a party of 4. When we made the new reservation, it was technically a new reservation and not a reschedule in Disney's system, which really didn't matter until it came down to advanced dining reservations, because Disney was being really cagey with those and did not release what was happening with them until the day before Magic Kingdom and Animal Kingdom reopened. And the way those worked was anybody who had previously scheduled ADRs that were canceled were the first to be able to book new ADRs. And they had a full week, similar to the park reservations. You had tickets, you had a full week before everybody else to make your new park reservations. Well, unfortunately, the ADRs that were canceled on our previous reservation were never associated with our current reservation, meaning we were not in that category. So we booked our ADRs less than a week before we traveled. And Jordana, I don't think you even were able to book ours for us, so I had to do it.
Right. Because the thing is, they have a same thing with the park reservations. They have a COVID warning.
Right. Yeah, anything you have to acknowledge.
You have to say.
Yeah.
So legally, travel agents can't make your ADRs for you right now.
Right.
So that's why, Tim had to do them himself.
So we were not able to get an in-park ADR for Hollywood Studios. Hollywood Studios has such limited sit-down table service restaurants to begin with, and of all the parks, they have way less than normal that are open. So we were looking for a sci-fi or a 50s, and there was just nothing. And I kept refreshing the app the entire time we were down there trying to get it, and nothing ever popped up. That was actually how I found out that you couldn't do any walk-ups for in-park table services, because I asked at both those places if they could squeeze us in, and they very politely declined us. So that was my planning dining experience. What was yours?
As far as planning them, the only thing that I can complain about is that all the restaurants aren't open right now. So originally, before COVID even happened, at our 180-day mark, I got Cinderella's Royal Table for my son's birthday. And I don't know if you guys saw, I had bought him a Prince Charming outfit 6 months ago. So it was just going to be perfect, and it just didn't happen. So that kind of was a bummer. But we pretty much got all the reservations we wanted. We got pretty lucky, but we were also there for a 10-day span, so we were able to play around with our days a little bit easier.
Yeah. So that was both of our reservation experience. As far as actually dining when we were there, as we've talked about with the quick services at the hotels, quick service is only going to be mobile order, because if you are staying at Disney Hotel, that means you have some kind of credit card on file for incidentals, which means that you can use mobile order. That's Disney's logic behind it, which means that they could say, nope, you're not getting food unless you're doing mobile order, which I think is the smart thing to do, because that's definitely the safest way to handle things right now during it. It was a little bit annoying. We had one table service at the Contemporary at the Wave. I'll talk about it in a sec. But I love the peanut butter pie from Contempo Cafe. Contempo Cafe, probably one of the worst quick services on property. But if you're ever at the Wave or Cali Grill, or even one of the bars at the Contemporary, stop at the Contempo Cafe and grab the peanut butter pie. Hands down, one of the best desserts on property. But even that, I walked up and I said, can I get a peanut butter pie? It's right there in the case. And they said, no, you have to mobile order it. So they made me mobile order and wait for them to reach to the case and grab me the peanut butter pie. So, I'm glad to see them following the rules. It's good. Now, the parks, it's very similar. Mobile ordering is so highly encouraged that they kind of hide the fact that you can go up to the counter and order. If you want to go up to the counter and order, there's a cast member outside each quick service, and they will you'll say, hey, can I go inside and order? And they'll say, can you mobile order? And if you really truly can't, they'll say, all right. And they have one register at each of the large quick services, your Pecos Bills, your Cosmic Rays, your Pizza Rizzos, and you'll get directed to that person, that one register, to place your order and go ahead and pick it up with everybody else. But we did all mobile ordering when we were in the parks. We ate quick service lunch every day that we were there. It was smooth. Even at peak times. Sorry, I take that back. We were specifically saw the tip on a forum within this mobile order time to try to eat your lunches either early or late, and that's what we did. We tried to eat at 11 or before 11 or after 1, and we never had any real bad mobile order waits in the park. Our longest one was Docking Bay in Galaxy's Edge. Right. We waited maybe 20 minutes to get the ding on the app that, hey, your food is ready.
Yeah.
But overall, super smooth experience. Same thing as the resorts. No self-service drinks, but super helpful. Awesome cast members. Every time you sat at tables, there was clear markings which tables were for use and which weren't. There was plenty of cast members in every dining room to both enforce that, because people would get annoyed that maybe there was 3 tables all available, but it's because you could draw a 6-foot line to an occupied table from them. So if somebody tried to sit down, then they'd say, you can't eat there, sorry. And also those same cast members, the second you got up from a table, I don't think we ever cleared our own dishes at a quick service. They would say, hey, we'll get it. They would clean your stuff and then immediately go into the sanitizing procedures for the table, so that it had time to sit for that 1 minute with the peroxide-based cleaner they use before they can give it to the next guests. What were your quick service experiences?
So, I mean, besides Pop Century, which I'm also very disappointed. They did cut their menu a lot, but they also took off the tie-dye cheesecake, which is what they're pretty much known for.
That's the signature Pop Century food.
Exactly. So that part I was completely bummed about, but regardless.
Did they say that was a COVID thing, or is that we're changing the menu thing?
I didn't ask for it really. I just saw it wasn't on their mobile menu, and then I kind of peeked around and didn't see it in their freezer. I'm just assuming that it's just due to them limiting their menu. They didn't really have a ton. They only had pastry, basic I don't know, breakfast pastry and stuff like that.
Okay.
They did have the Mickey cupcake. But I was but where's my cheesecake? So yeah, I was totally bummed about that. That was one thing, is that they are a very limited menu. And then I also ate, we had Pecos Bills one day, which again,
super limited menu there.
Super good, yes.
No tacos at Pecos Bills.
No, we went with fajitas, but
that was just a shock to me.
Right.
Of all the things to take off the menu at Pecos Bills, the tacos were not available.
Yep. And then we ate, a couple just basic quick service places in the parks. Epcot,
all mobile order.
Regal Eagle. We ate at Regal Eagle. It was our first day. It was so good. Pretty much the best burger you'll get there, or pulled pork sandwich my husband got. We definitely enjoyed there. It's a little bit different because they don't have that front entrance open. The front entrance is used as the exit, so you actually have to go around the building and then kind of walk on the side, very single kind of thing. Show the lady at the door your mobile order's ready, and then they'll let you in.
That's a good thing to bring up. If you're going to the parks right now, every single shop and restaurant, no matter how big or small, if it has more than one door, is going to have a specific entrance doors and specific exit doors. So pay attention to that, and it might not seem like the most logical, like you said, how the main door to the Regal Eagle is the exit and the side door is the entrance. It's to maximize the flow of people in one direction through those spaces. So don't just assume you can wander in in the whatever door you want and just try to go with the flow literally, because that's going to keep things going as smooth as possible. I don't know if you noticed this when you're in the parks, but this was the strangest thing. We both obviously went in the summer, and there's got to be some reason for this, but there was basically no hand-dipped ice cream in any of the parks. All the soft serve you could want, all the Dole Whip spots are open, all the places that make sundaes with soft serve, but any of your places that do hand-scooped ice cream, which is definitely a treat that I really enjoy in the parks, closed across the board.
I think it's just probably a safety issue as far as what they're allowing for food and drink places.
Yeah, I agree. The more I thought about it, that's what it was. I mean, you have, 15, 20 big open containers of a food. And then cast member sticks their hand into that container over and over again. So I think it's just impossible to do to the standard that Disney is doing the rest of their cleaning. It just kind of stinks in the summer to not be able to
I think there was one
get that cookie sundae.
Where me and Guy were just like, we really just want an ice cream, like not just like a Mickey ice cream, like we want like a bowl of ice cream, and you can't find it anywhere. So that was another difficult thing. Another quick service place I ate at, though, we went to Disney Springs one day, or 2 days actually. We ate at Earl of Sandwich, which is literally my favorite sandwich place ever. Holiday Sandwich, which is that like Thanksgiving sandwich. It was delicious. They're not doing, they're still kind of socially distancing, but like they don't have mobile order. So we actually that was our first experience of actually having to go up to the counter and order and everything. But regardless, you could see people definitely cleaning, and there was someone at the front counting how many people were in the place at the same time. So overall, it still seemed pretty safe. But that was the other quick service.
And I was going to say, Earl of Sandwich, despite being originating in the Disney properties, now it's just like a regular chain. It's got, I think, 30 locations across the country. Come on, Robert Earl, I know you're listening as a CEO who listens to our podcast. Bring an Earl of Sandwich to the Connecticut, Rhode Island area. Just, put it in Mystic or something, yes. Put it in Mystic Village.
Yes.
All right. Ohana. This is the new campaign. Everybody, get on your social media, tweet at Earl of Sandwich, get them to open an Earl of Sandwich in Mystic Village.
There we go.
And we can have Disney guys meetups at the Mystic Aquarium, and then go all eat at the Earl of Sandwich.
Hashtag Earl in Mystic.
Hashtag Earl in Mystic. All right, this is the plan. All right, so we're getting way off topic though. So.
What other dining places did you guys?
So we have a couple places we really, really like to eat. Number one being Whispering Canyon at Wilderness Lodge. Luckily, that was open, much to my delight and surprise. As a vegetarian, there are very few places that make vegetarian barbecue, although I've heard Regal Eagle does also. But I love the skillet over there. So we went there. We went to Animal Kingdom. I think we had a 740 ADR because that was the only one I could get for that day when I made my ADRs. And this will factor into the transportation thing. So we had a delightful meal. Unfortunately, they seemed like they kind of overbooked, so we had to wait. We did not get seated till after 8. Our food came out super fast. Our server was great and all that. But by the time we got done, it was like 9 o'clock. And the Wilderness Lodge is a buses and boats only transportation resort, and there's no direct buses that go resort to resort other than that monorail bus, and that's only the monorail resorts.
Right.
So we went, how do we get back? And we walked back and we asked the concierge, and they were like, you got to take a bus to Disney Springs and then back to the Polynesian. I said, but the Polynesian is like half a mile from here. We have to take a bus. And he was like, yeah. And he was like, I didn't tell you this because there's no sidewalk, but technically, if you just walk straight out the front way, stay on the grass and cross, and then you get to the TTC and you go over the bridge, you'll be at the Poly. And I was like, oh, we're in the building right next to TCC. We'll just do this. So that actually went great up until we got to TTC, where I misunderstood what he meant by go over the bridge, because the bridge has no median and it's for the buses. And we started crossing it, and all of a sudden a cop was like, hey, where are you going? And then realized that we weren't some like kids that cause mischief, that we were very obviously lost Disney vacationers. I said, we're trying to get back to our room at the Poly. He goes, oh, no, you have to go down here and go over there. You're going to get hit by a bus. You're fine. And like showed us how to walk through the TTC in a much safer way than walking through this bridge for the buses. So yeah, but that was super annoying. The transportation getting cut off. It came into factor the next night. We had a reservation at the Wave at the Contemporary, which was fantastic. The Wave consistently, I've heard people for years say it's the most underrated restaurant on Disney property. Personally, I think it is as good after eating there, probably as good as the California Grill. Very similar style of food, which is kind of weird that the Contemporary has 2 table services, one a 2 credit, one a 1 credit, that serve super similar food. But we had a fantastic meal, amazing waiter. The Wave is very much set up like a traditional hotel restaurant, which meant that the capacity was so reduced, because basically you'd have 1 table and then all 6 tables around it would not be allowed to seat anybody. So there was maybe a dozen parties they could seat in that entire restaurant, but it was fantastic. Our food was amazing. Rachel got the sustainable fish of the day, and she ate every last bite of that, which she does not normally finish her meal. I had an amazing gnocchi dish that is almost identical to the gnocchi dish they serve upstairs at the Cali Grill, and it was absolutely fantastic dinner. And then we went, as I mentioned earlier, and got my peanut butter pie for dessert at the Contempo Cafe, and saw that the monorail was parked in the lobby, realized the monorails weren't running, and had to wait for that monorail bus that thankfully was running, so that we didn't have to walk all the way around the Seven Seas Lagoon to get back to the Polynesian, because I don't think that would have fared as well as our short little jaunt from the Whispering Canyon.
No. I mean, I've stayed, in January when we went to the Travelmation retreat, we had like that whole lounge area at the Wave, kind of.
Oh, but on the other side of the wall. So that was weird. That was open because obviously it's a restaurant bar.
Right.
We peeked in, no social distancing.
Oh.
There was just a bunch of business-looking dudes who probably were like office job guys for the NBA, all just sitting at the bar drinking. Right. So I was surprised and not super comforted with that, but the restaurant side of things were awesome.
Okay. Yeah, good to know. I mean, as far as me, we ate at Liberty Tree our last day, which it literally was one of my new favorites. New but old, I call it, because I had eaten there probably over 5 years ago. But due to social distancing, which I thought was pretty cool, because Diamond Horseshoe and Liberty Tree, because they share a kitchen, they're literally just taking over the Diamond Horseshoe dining room. So we were actually seated in the Diamond Horseshoe, even though we were eating at Liberty Tree. So
that makes a ton of sense, because Diamond Horseshoe has been seasonal for probably 5 years now, and I was shocked with how few restaurants were open. I was wondering why the heck was Diamond Horseshoe open, but that makes sense now.
Yeah. So, and I don't know if you've ever been in there, but they're very small. There's not a lot, so we were in there probably with like 4 other families. It was very small. So
in the Diamond Horseshoe side, I've never been in there. No.
Yes, on the Diamond Horseshoe side. Save room for dessert, because it is like an endless thing, family style, where they'll keep refilling the meal that they have. But the ooey gooey toffee cake with ice cream was dynamite. Like, it was so good. I feel like Guy Fieri with my little adjectives, but
I've heard second only to Ohana bread pudding in the hierarchy of iconic Disney desserts.
Yes. We like literally probably looked like we were licking the plate, and she was like, "You can have more dessert too if you want." And I was like, "No, I will not be able to walk out of this park." But no, that was very good. We ate at Sana for the first time. I'm not an adventurous eater. I think I'm very similar to Bub we're pretty much just burger people. You know what I mean? We have the palate of a 4-year-old.
Not the restaurant for that, then.
No. So, but I wanted to see it because everybody talks about the, view of the savannah and everything. So we went there, and I mean, I didn't like it as much. My husband did eat everything. He loved the bread service. The views of the savannah were amazing. And then while you're waiting, there's this little area where you can walk out and kind of walk into the savannah, which was pretty cool. But yeah, no, I didn't really love it. But
now, did you guys have a Savannah View table, or were you seated at one of the booths?
So we were at a booth, but we were at the booth closest to the window opening, so we could still see most of it.
Yes.
Yeah, so it wasn't too bad.
Now, what did you guys end up getting there? Because we're huge Sanaa fans, Rachel and I, but we did not make an ADR there because I took one look at the menu, and that was probably the most changed of all the menus I've seen from COVID.
Yeah, I can't even remember what it was called. Pretty much they only had a burger and they had the meal.
Right, and the meal had way limited choices compared to what it normally does.
Beef, chicken, and then I don't know. But so we both got the beef portion of it. And yeah, my husband loved it. I didn't like it. But it is what it is. So I shared my sausage cheeseburger with him. But yeah, it wasn't for me, but if you're an adventurous eater, definitely go ahead and try it. And the views are amazing. We also ate at Kona Cafe, which is at the Poly. I do want to also add that every time you go to a resort and you're having a meal, they do take your temperature right before you go into the restaurant. So not only temperature checks at the parks, but also at all the restaurants.
And that started when you were there. So when I was there, technically, you were not supposed to eat at a resort unless you were staying at a resort. But that was not being so I, staying at the Poly, could eat at the Contemporary or Wilderness Lodge or Pop even if I wanted to, but technically somebody who was just there for the day at the parks wasn't supposed to. Unfortunately, that's literally impossible to enforce, so that wasn't being enforced, but it also meant that they weren't doing any kind of screening. So they switched. The day after we left is when they switched to the temperature screening that you experienced, which I think was the right move, because now
definitely
to do any kind of indoor anything at Disney other than stay in a hotel, you need to get temperature screened.
Right. It was smart, and it wasn't that. I mean, it doesn't take that much, but Tonga toast is pretty much the best thing ever. And oh my God, I would eat it for breakfast every day of my life. Let me go real quick into sci-fi because we had the episode.
Hold on. So just for somebody who might not know, what is the Tonga toast?
Oh, the Tonga toast, it's a French toast. It's a banana stuffed French toast, and it's got cinnamon all around it. But this piece of toast is literally like ginormous. And then you get like a piece of meat on the side. So you get like I got like breakfast ham. I think my husband got like bacon.
And wait, one other question about Kona. Kona is the only table service restaurant that I have heard repeatedly was not socially distanced properly, which is actually why we did not end up eating there despite staying at the Poly and them having walk-ins for breakfast for resort guests. What was your experience there?
So we had a kind of like, those booths that are just like, they have like multiple tables that go with the big booth.
Yep.
So we were at one end and there was two tables in between us, and then there was another family on the other end. So I didn't feel like it wasn't properly social distant. The only thing that I can say is that it was, on one side of the booth was us, and then on the other side in the middle was another family. You know what I mean? So that's probably what they mean as far as technically they probably shouldn't have anyone on that other side.
That makes sense. Yeah, I wasn't sure what it was. I had just seen prior to our trip that come up over and over again.
Or they should have some sort of barrier to split up the two, you know what I mean, to split up the booth.
Yeah.
I mean, that's getting super particular, but yeah, no, I totally, I can see where the complaint is coming from, but I didn't really think about it until just now when you said it.
Okay.
But yeah, going into sci-fi, the drink was delicious. And Drew, yes, it came in a bigger cup than we thought that the pictures were online. I did get my little glowy cube, by the way.
And which drink was this? For those who might not have heard the sci-fi episode.
Oh my god, I don't remember the name of it.
Was it the Glowtini? Wasn't it a Glowtini?
No, it wasn't a Glowtini. It was like a magic something. Oh my god, I don't know. You're calling me out. I wasn't ready.
Sorry, did not mean to call you out.
No, but due to social distancing, most of the cars were not filled, so there was probably less than 15 parties there, which is probably why it was so hard to get a reservation for you and I, honestly. And the fried pickles absolutely sucked. We had a long conversation about fried pickles. They were god awful. As a fried pickle enthusiast, I can say this because I get them religiously. And yeah, no, this was something that was just absolutely, like, they were just like, Guy said, because Guy worked in like pizza places, and he was like, the batter's old, like the oil's old or whatever. And I'm like, oh, these are just so terrible. Like, they're just plain, boring. They didn't have any seasoning. But yeah.
Were they at least the spears?
No, they weren't the spears. They weren't the spears either. They were the.
Yeah, I would have just walked out.
Yeah.
I'm glad we weren't able to get a walk in.
No, it was not what I was expecting. And what I can say overall, because I know that the guys were waiting for my review on this, is once a decade is fine with me, so I will see sci-fi in another 10 years. But yeah, no, the atmosphere was still pretty cool. But the burgers sucked too, so it wasn't something that we were overly joyful with. And then House of Blues we ate at as well. Nachos were amazing. And because of where House of Blues is in Disney Springs, it's way, way, way down. There was like no one there. And we went at like a really weird time too. We went.
House of Blues is down at by the Cirque du Soleil Theater and the NBA Experience end, right?
So since nothing's really open, like it's kind of weird that House of Blues is open. But yeah, no, there was no one around us. There was like one person at the bar and I think one other family there. But, you know, everybody was wearing masks. I felt super comfortable there as well. But we got basic burgers and I got a salad. Wasn't super blown away. I ordered my salad incorrectly, so I didn't really love it. But, I mean, regardless, it was okay. But I think, do you have anything to add with dining? Because I think went a little overboard.
No, that's fine. We was that your only Disney Springs experience? Was that one trip to House of Blues or?
Earl's Sandwich too.
Oh, right.
Yeah, we did World of Disney at the Earl's Sandwich day too.
So interesting. I was not planning on really talking about Disney Springs because Rachel and I made the decision before we even went down there based on the intel we had, the pictures we'd seen, what we'd heard, that we did not want anything to do with Disney Springs. We felt that there was no way it properly could be enforced to the same standards as the resort proper. So we just did not want to do that. It was tempting a couple nights to go down there and maybe go get a drink or something, but it just seemed too high risk. So it sounds like you guys at least went down there. Did you not necessarily hang out though?
We don't really. Yeah, no, we're pretty much in and out people. So I think even the day that we went to World of Disney, less than 2 hours we were there, and that's only because we were shopping probably the majority of it. Yeah, but we stopped and got a coffee too at Starbucks. So we did sit to drink the coffee but even then, like we went first thing when they opened. So I mean, it all depends on timing too, I'm sure. And then we also went at an off time for lunch at House of Blues the next day. So it might be, my opinion might be a little bit deferred, I guess, because the times I went.
Did you feel safe the whole time?
I did. But
do you think you would would you tell a client, oh, you're fine, go get dinner at, Morimoto,
as long as they were keeping their distance, like it's more based on what you're doing. I mean, obviously with Earl of Sandwich, that's a smaller place, so people were kind of a little bit closer, and the ordering at the counter was a little bit different, but World of Disney, I felt safe. House of Blues, I felt safe. I would definitely recommend to a client to go there right now.
Okay. Yeah, no, I mean, as you said, I think it's an important point that maybe we should touch on in the introduction section, but you have a control over your own body. And I know that sounds super obvious, but what I mean by that is if you're in a queue and somebody is getting too close to you, then stand 2 social distancing markers back from the party. And right. If somebody's getting too close to you on the back, you need to be assertive because it's about your own safety. And you need to be able to turn to that person and say, hey, you need to stay at least 6 feet away. And this is super important. We'll get to it in the parks, but a lot of the queues, if they have a double switchback, in that middle section, there will only be 1 social distancing marker because that's the only way that you could be 6 feet away from everybody in both other switchbacks. Right. And a lot of times people weren't paying attention, and you have to say, hey, you need to socially distance yourself, because that's pretty much, besides the mask, the most important thing when it comes to this. And to the mask, the same thing. If you see people doing unsafe behaviors and you don't feel comfortable saying, hey, you need to do this, and you don't see a cast member immediately obvious to say it to them, you control your body. Move yourself, 6 or 8 feet away from those right. people. Don't walk directly behind them. Don't cut in front of them. So you just be aware of your surroundings, and that's how you're going to have the best chance of keeping yourself safe while you're in the parks and in Disney Springs and on property during this time.
Exactly.
And if you don't feel comfortable going to the pool, masks are not required anywhere in the pool areas on Disney property, including in the lounge chairs and stuff, which are spread out in a socially distanced way. And there are signs everybody says don't move them, but people might move them. You don't make that choice. We talked to people who definitely said, we're not going to the pool. We just don't feel comfortable. Or there was people who just wore their masks in the pool area, and there was a young couple who wore their masks in the pool. So I just didn't go underwater because they just wanted to soak. And, if that's what made them feel safe, then they felt safe. So, yeah, just a little side note on that. And with that, let's get to the part what all you guys want to hear, the parks. So what park did you start with?
Let's start with Animal Kingdom.
All right. That was the park I started with as well.
Yeah. So for this, we were able to get through Animal Kingdom in a half day based on the waits. Animal Kingdom is one of the lesser crowded ones that I found. For us, Animal Kingdom's always a half day park anyway, but we were able to get everything done. We can't really get Sal to pay attention on the trails and seeing animals and stuff like that. So we're kind of walking through this stuff pretty quickly. Anyway, he actually fell asleep on the safari. So we were able to get him on the safari, fallen asleep, then got 2 hours for us to do the adult rides and ride swap and stuff like that. I didn't go on Dinosaur or in Dino Land, but when I looked in it kind of...
Oh my God, Dino Land looks so depressing right now.
Sad right now. So, I mean, Triceratops Spin is still open, but it was pretty much a 0-minute wait.
Yeah, so with the Primeval World being closed permanently and the games being closed due to social distancing and high touch stuff, and no dance party and no boneyard. My lord, it looks like a closed down country fair.
Yes.
And
yes.
I mean, I think Dino Land is prime retheme territory now. With the closing of Primeval War, the already thin story behind it that a lot of people hate and weirdos like Bub and I think is cool because we decided to read into all the Imagineering nonsense behind it, probably just needs to go at this point. Like, you can keep Dinosaur and keep the gift shop and the restaurant directly adjacent to it, because that actually goes with the theming of the dinosaur ride, much more so than the Dino Land Fair. And you got to bulldoze that fair. Unfortunately, with the financial situation, Disney, that is probably not going to happen for a very long time. So what a disaster that area is going to be.
Yes. Yeah, no, that it really did look sad. Other than that, I did Flight of Passage. It was 10 minutes to get on the ride, and that's only because the queue is ridiculously long. That was the only wait I had. And I was in one row with another single rider, so it was just me and this one dude. So it's definitely still distancing, which is pretty cool. And then I finally rode Navi River Journey, which due to only having a 5-minute wait, I did love the music, even though I didn't vote for it a few episodes back. I think it was episode 70. But I do get it now. And I also understand why people got so pissed when they would wait over an hour when it first opened. It's not exciting. It does tell a story, and the music is great, but not something that I would have waited over the 5 minutes.
No, you are wrong. That ride is so delightful. That is the best slow dark ride.
I don't love it.
I love it. I love it so much. I think a big part is everybody, like all us Disney super fans, are like brain poisoned knowing like that it's 1/3 in length and scale of what it was supposed to be. Yes. But I think it's a delight. So my Animal Kingdom day was pretty similar. It ended up being a half day for us. We did it on our arrival day and waited forever for a bus to get there. So I think we were actually in there for exactly half the opening time. It was a ghost town on a Thursday, by far the least crowded. Social distancing was not an issue for us when we were there because you could walk through certain sections of the park and not see another soul, especially in Dino Land. This was also the park, though, that we noticed the most service level because the college program and the international programs are currently suspended indefinitely. It means that the only cast members who are working in the parks are union cast members, and they were recalled on a seniority list. So with us being there the first week that all 4 parks were open, you were basically all the cast members you were seeing were long-time, full-time cast members.
Right.
And you 100% could feel the difference. I don't know how many of you guys realize, but most of the frontline cast members you see day to day nowadays are college program kids, which means they are, basically in an internship program and they're undergrads. So the cast members we saw are people who working at Disney is their job. And on that Thursday, I was wearing a Tokyo Disney shirt that you can only get in Tokyo, and Rachel was wearing a pair of ears you can only get in Tokyo. I think every cast member who, when we were walking, as long as it did not appear that we weren't talking in a conversation with each other or in a hurry, if we were just kind of strolling, every cast member stopped and either asked about my shirt or asked about Rachel's ears. Like, oh my God, did you get those here? Where can you find those? And then when we said Tokyo, asked about Tokyo or said oh, I've been to Tokyo, or I haven't been and I always wanted to go. It just awesome, 90s style glory days of Disney different styles. It was amazing. I don't know. Did you have that experience as well, or?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely feel like the cast members that are there are lifelongers. They, even at a distance, they seem more interactive, more caring, I guess, if that makes sense. just definitely more invested in the magic. But yeah, no, I had little, I don't have a specific memory, but I mean, besides when we dressed up Sal as Prince Charming, one cast member pretty much was following him down Main Street and was like, oh my God, Prince Charming, Prince Charming. So that was kind of cute when she only like worked at the Emporium. I mean,
that's cool.
Yeah, no, little things like that definitely make a difference.
And the other thing we saw the cast members getting into at Animal Kingdom is Animal Kingdom has the most unique of the character cavalcades,
yes,
which we did not know what to expect. These got announced, and this was going to be the substitute for actually meeting characters, but it was kind of hinted at as the characters would be on cars or floats, or in the case of Animal Kingdom, boats. And basically what it ended up being were full-on parades that just did not have announced times to prevent people from being able to gather in anticipation of them. But the ones at Animal Kingdom, the boat ones were awesome. At least that was our take on them. And the cast members were getting super into them. They would, if they were on a bridge, they would get up there and waving. The characters are waving at the people and the cast members. Super awesome. Super, super cool stuff. What did you think of the cavalcades? I mean, Animal Kingdom or in general?
In general, I love them. They're not, super awkward, long parades that kind of go on a little bit too long. So these were just short, unannounced, like, here they come, like, stay out of the way, here comes Tinkerbell, or, you know what I mean? And I thought it was cool in Animal Kingdom. We saw Pocahontas. We saw, Chip and Dale in their dinosaur outfits, and it was very, very cool. I was a big fan of these.
Yeah, and I mean, so this kind of plays to why Rachel and I felt like we definitely got our money's worth on this trip. Is we are very much at Disney for the attractions. We are not big parade people, fireworks people, or character meet and greet people. So for us, where we don't normally take time out of our Disney day to meet and greet characters, the cavalcades were a pure value add for us. Since we're not normally planning around parades or character meet and greets, these were like free mini parades and character mini greets. So that was really cool for us.
Yes.
Overall, our Animal Kingdom experience, very similar to yours, very empty, basically half day. We did do some of the trails. The animals right now are awesome because during the closure, they lost a lot of their exposure to people. So they were far more willing to be way more out and about during the day, because they didn't have to worry about having 800 people pounded up against the glass trying to take a look at them. So we got to see some amazing stuff on the safari, incredible stuff on the tiger trail. I mean, literally one of the tigers within 4 feet of the glass. You never see that normally.
Awesome.
And then we specifically went to Animal Kingdom on the day we did because it was the only day it was forecast to not have rain. And then all of a sudden, in the middle of the day, and this was way more than the normal one storm a day type rain that if you go to Florida the Sunday you're used to, the heavens just opened up, and for 2 hours it was like a constant buckets dropping of water. It turned out it was I think while we were down there, it was a tropical storm that was going on the other side of Florida and then made landfall in Texas, and it was the rain from the edge of that when its path changed very late in the forecasting.
Yeah.
But regardless, we had just finished lunch at Satuli Canteen, and the rain started. There's all these people, crowding under the outside awning at Satuli, which is this massive awning. And it was starting to get to the point where we weren't feeling great at the distance. So you said, you know what? Who knows when this rain's going to stop? Let's just make a beeline for Flight of Passage. And not a soul on Flight of Passage because most of that queue is outside and you still have to walk through all of it. It's a half-mile long queue because of the waits normally are. And then so we got a whole theater to ourselves, just Rachel and I, and then next to us was another one party. Then we get off, and there's cast members where you normally would go exit out towards the gift shop with propping open a emergency door, a cast member door. They said, if you want to re-ride to beat the rain. So we just rode Flight of Passage 2 or 3 times.
That's awesome.
Until the rain went to a drizzle, and then we rode Navi River Journey, which, interestingly, Navi River Journey, I think the only reason it has those 50-minute waits normally is everything, including the safari, the entire time we were in Animal Kingdom was a walk-on, except for River Journey. It consistently had like a 15-minute wait. I think that ride must have a very low hourly capacity. Yeah. Because it's not especially popular. It's a people's favorite ride to complain about, and it actually always had a wait despite the park being empty. So it must have a really low hourly cap.
Yeah.
But overall, Animal Kingdom, a lot of people are saying right now, if you're going to skip a park during this pandemic, skip Animal Kingdom. I disagree. I think between being able to ride Flight of Passage, which is still a ridiculous wait normally, and Everest, Dinosaur, all that stuff being walk-ons, it's a good park to do in a half day. It's still worth your money.
Yes.
Even if it just means doing like 3, 4, 5, like the Flight of Passage experience you're going to get is just unheard of normally. The safari is amazing. The way they're socially distancing that is basically they put clear vinyl in between each row of seats on the safari vehicles, and it will be one party to the row, which if you are an amateur photographer, it's the best ever opportunity to get awesome pictures of animals because you can slide up and down your whole bench and get the best possible shot, which normally, I mean, if you're seated in the middle of the row, you might not get any good shots at all. So I think those two things alone make Animal Kingdom worthwhile, and just plan your day. Make that your day that you get a cool resort ADR. You know, you get some ADR at Sanaa or at Disney Springs or at one of the resorts, or even Tiffin's, the 2-table service credit in Animal Kingdom is one of the few deluxe dining options that is open in the parks. So I think Animal Kingdom is worthwhile, and we'll get to it. But there was a park we chose not to go to on our trip, and it was not Animal Kingdom.
Right.
So where are we headed next, Joe?
Let's talk about Magic Kingdom real quick. I don't really have a ton to say about it. We did 3 Magic Kingdom days, and this is based on the fact that this has the most for my son to do. And it's also our favorite park. But again, the cavalcades were just so much fun. It's only 1 or 2 floats where they're just coming down. Also, Main Street Marching Band, still a thing, which I was really excited to see, and I just like listening to the music and stuff, so that was pretty cool. Rides were mostly 20 minutes or less, except for Splash Mountain, which kind of always had about a 40-minute wait, but there was one point where we did go on it, or one of us did wait, one of us rider swapped, and I think the 40 minutes was actually 20. So some of the times are a little off, but then sometimes a 20-minute wait can actually be like 30 minutes if they're doing cleaning procedures, where they have to just run all the logs.
Yeah, Splash is definitely one where the cleaning procedure is the most apparent, because they have to clean each log with the spray and then run it, and Splash is not a short ride, so that clean rotation for Splash takes a lot longer than a lot of the other rides. Right,
exactly. And I do want to also say I was at Magic Kingdom the day the log sank. If anybody remembers seeing that in the news, but it wasn't me. So I actually didn't go on Splash that day. But yeah, that's all. I had a really good time at Magic Kingdom overall. The only thing that I can say is that obviously with a lot of the things being closed, there's not a lot of ice cream carts open in general.
You mean like the push cart style carts that sell a fruit bar, a Mickey sandwich, and a Mickey bar?
Yeah. So obviously, like when you usually go, you turn a corner and there's one. You turn another corner, there's another. Here it was a little bit difficult to find them. So you have the basic ones that are permanent near Main Street or near the castle.
At the hub, yeah. There's a 2 on either side of the hub.
Yep. So those were open, and then there was a couple within the park, obviously. But yeah, no, there definitely wasn't as many prominent as I would hope.
Now, if I had to bet, I would say that is probably related to college program.
Yes.
That is something that you could take someone who has just come on and got assigned food service as their college program assignment.
No.
And with almost no training, you could stick them on one of those carts and have them, take people's money and hand them an ice cream bar.
Right.
So I bet you that the full-time food service cast members they've recalled are there to work in the quick service restaurants and keep those moving with as crazy as those are right now with the mobile order.
Right.
So Magic Kingdom, we did one day, as we did with all the parks that we did during our short trip. I wish we had been able to stay for longer. Unfortunately, we planned this vacation. I am waiting for the other shoe to drop on an enormous project at work. And here we are recording on August 16th, and that other shoe has not dropped. So we definitely could have done a week or something.
Yeah.
But at the time, my work was like, if you could keep it to under 5 days, that would be good. So unfortunately, that is why we limited it. But Magic Kingdom, we had nothing close to 20 minute waits. The only thing we waited close to 20 minutes on was Big Thunder, again, other than Splash. Now, Splash was up and down our whole day. When we decided to go on Splash, it went down. But everybody had gone away from it. We saw they started running empty logs on it again. So I said, hey, let's kind of just hang out. And I bet you it's going to open soon. And it did. We waited like 15 minutes. And they opened it back up. So in the end, that was super worth it because just like in your experience, Splash was we were there the week after the Tiana takeover. So people are going crazy trying to get on that ride. It might be their last time. Who knows when the changeovers happen? I think it's probably not going to happen for another couple of years, but people don't make it to Disney every year. So It is the only thing that has a wait, so it was worth it for us. We waited only like 15 minutes. I will say we were at Magic Kingdom. We didn't rope drop, quote unquote, even though it's not a thing right now. We did get on the monorail. We were there within 15 minutes of it opening, which is super pleasant. There's no waits at the tap styles unless you are there waiting for a park to open. But we were not able to do everything. So I think this definitively proves, even if there's no wait, there is too much to do at this point at the Magic Kingdom for it to be a one-day park. Definitely plan for 2 days at the Magic Kingdom, no matter what, if you can work that into your time and money budget.
I agree. I always suggest 5 days, and then I always suggest starting and ending with Magic Kingdom. That's just how I personally do my trip.
That's usually how I do it, because I like to start a trip with a Small World and a Splash Mountain. I like those to be my first two rides. This time we did do Animal Kingdom first, and that was nice, but it did feel a little different not starting it going down Main Street. As I've mentioned, I love that so much on the show a couple times. I did think the cavalcades at the Magic Kingdom were delightful, almost like parades, in a very literal sense, even compared to the other parks. Mickey and his friends come with dancers and stilt walkers, and they're on their Move It, Shake It, and Mouse Can Dance It float. And then the princesses is Tiana and Rapunzel on their Festival of Fantasy float, and then all the other Disney princesses on Cinderella's Festival of Fantasy float, and then the Pooh characters in the Main Street vehicles. So those are all with horses and everything. So those are all basically just like surprise parades. So that was an absolute delight, seeing those cavalcades. Very, very big deal feel to them. And I wish that was something that could stick around. Obviously, it's completely not feasible for these to stick around after the fact.
Right. Exactly.
But yeah, Magic Kingdom, of all the parks, felt the most crowded for us, which is interesting because I know everybody's been saying Hollywood Studios is the most crowded, but for us it seemed like, and we were there on a Friday, so it was a busier day. But it was a blast. The new castle paint, don't trust the photos you see if you think you don't like it. Disney chose some very oversaturated colors because the Florida sun eats away at paint really fast. But what it means is that Cell phone cameras, which is what most people take photos with, naturally oversaturate photos, and since the colors are already oversaturated, they look very bizarre. But in person, I think the castle looks awesome. I do think the color scheme is kind of similar to the California castle, but the Florida castle is so much more grand that having these bright colors on it really makes it look great. And looking at pictures from this time last year that I had taken, the castle does look way more alive, way more lively than it did.
Right. No, I agree.
So moving on, next I think we're headed over to Hollywood Studios.
Yeah. So when we got in the line for the Skyliner, it was during a peak time. I had told my husband I'm an early riser. I like to leave early. I like to rope drop. Too early sometimes, but I told him that we should leave around 8:30, 8:45 for a 10 o'clock opening, and he was like, "Oh, they don't even run the Skyliners till 9:15. Let's just go at 9:15." So we get in line at 9:15 to get there for 10, and we didn't actually enter Hollywood Studios until 10:08, which means I lost my 10 a.m. chance to get on boarding groups for Rise of the Resistance. I did get a boarding group at the 2 o'clock the release. However, the ride was broken down for almost 2 hours, which I think we talked about this, how they have to break down and reset all the computers and stuff. But I got boarding group 53, and they only called to boarding group 51. So I just want to say thank you to my husband, who I love dearly, for letting me miss that ride, because he didn't want to leave 45 minutes earlier.
But now, you've been on it though, right?
I did. I went on it in January. I think I want him to experience it more, but I had so much fun. I'm not a big Star Wars person anyway, but I had so much fun on it in January. I wanted to do it again.
I know. And maybe 3-4 years from now, when Bub and Drew finally get a chance to ride it, we'll do an episode on it. I know it's really hard to do an episode on it because so many people don't get to experience Disney as often as Jordan and I do.
Right.
And it really truly is. You can't describe it as a ride. It's a whole experience. And thankfully, that is one of the only ones where they are still doing the full pre-shows, which I even hesitate to say that about that ride, because the pre-shows aren't pre-shows. It's all part of one experience. But end to end, front to back, granted, I am a huge Star Wars fan. That is the best theme park ride in the world right now. But go on and finish off.
So Mickey and Minnie's Runaway Railway was my first time on this, and it was really amazing. I like that the Chinese theater queue still feels like the Chinese theater as it was, and they didn't completely take it over. We thought it was a cute ride overall. I was surprised to see, again, the lack of ice cream carts, specifically by the Rock and Roller Coaster Tower Terror area, which, again, they're kind of around every corner. There's, like, the actual
There's,
park.
like, 3 in that area, yeah.
None of them are open.
Yep.
And I'm like, I just want a damn Mickey ice cream. I'm waiting for my husband to get off the ride. Like, what the heck? So, yeah, no, I was kind of pissed about that. And then I ended up just walking through the shops. But, yeah, that's all I got to say.
So, Hollywood Studios, this was like the make or break for our trip. When we had rescheduled it to that July week, at the time, it was before anybody could make park passes. I called the night before park passes opened. They said, hey, Hollywood Studios would be hard to get. We were trying to get it for a Saturday. But when we went last July 2019, Galaxy's Edge was not open yet. We were supposed to do a big extended family trip this summer, and obviously that did not happen, actually pre-COVID, just for a lot of reasons, people's lives getting in the way and stuff. So I had not experienced Galaxy's Edge yet. I knew that this was not going to be the ideal way to do it, and with the ADR change, we weren't able to get OGAs, but I still, I was all about needing to do Galaxy's Edge for me. So we got there. We were there right at, I think, like 9.
Yeah.
the way there is no rope drop right now. They just let you in the parks as soon as there's cast members to man the tap styles and the security checkpoints, and you kind of just can wander around the parks, but nothing's open except for the Starbucks. And actually, we haven't touched on this yet. Starbucks is weird because the Starbucks do not accept Starbucks mobile ordering, nor do they accept Disney mobile ordering. So Starbucks is the only place where everybody has to line up. So Starbucks lines are already crazy because it's the only thing open before the rides open in all the parks, and they've let all these people in to wander around. So there's just gigantic socially distanced Starbucks lines all the time.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree.
But we got our coffee. Well, I got my coffee, and Rachel got a water. And then we headed over to Galaxy's Edge to kind of sit and wait. If you are going to go, make sure you get there super early, not only to get the Rise boarding pass, but also you can generally, because a lot of people get there, get in the Mickey and Minnie queue and wait until 10 o'clock hits to get their boarding pass. So if you go to Galaxy's Edge, you can get the Millennium Falcon picture with literally no one else in the picture, which is not a shot you will ever be able to get at Disney again. In fact, I think they, for a while, were doing a magic shot where they used a computer to remove all the people. So it looked like it was just you in front of the Millennium Falcon. But now you can actually just take that picture for real. We did get a boarding group. I think we got 12 or 19, a pretty low number one. So we were able to ride it before lunch. As I said, it was amazing. As far as it is, quote unquote, breaking down a lot, this is kind of going to be the new normal. I mean, it was breaking out a lot beforehand, but with these trackless dark rides, they use something called an RCS, a ride control system, and each of the cars have a computer in them, and they have a various, like, a reboot cycle. And my understanding is with Rise of the Resistance, there's two. There's a partial one that takes an hour and a half to reset, and there's the full one that takes 2.5 hours to reset. So basically, if Rise of the Resistance, quote unquote, goes down and they actually say temporarily unavailable on the app, it is going to be a minimum or an hour and a half or 2.5 hours, and that is determined by the computer, not by any employee of Disney. So this kind of might be something we have to get used to as more and more of these complex trackless dark rides are introduced into the park. Now, Mickey and Minnie's does not seem to go down that often. Unfortunately, when Rachel and I were on it, we got to about the third room, and then all of a sudden, extremely bright spotlights came on, and all the pictures, not to get into, because I know the vast majority of people have not ridden that ride since it was only open for several weeks before the pandemic hit, but needless to say, a lot of the stuff went away on the walls, and our car stopped moving, and all the cars stopped moving, and we sat there. And then a voice came over the loudspeaker that was not a pre-recorded voice and said, "Hey, everybody sit tight. Total shutdown. Somebody will be there to let you guys out soon." So we got an on-ride, behind-the-scenes evacuation on our first ride through Mickey and Minnie's, which was not ideal. Like, it's a cool experience to have one of those, but not on your first ride ever on a brand-new e-ticket. I will say the cast members were awesome. They did not let us take pictures. We were respectful of that. But they specifically took people out through the way we came in as to not spoil the rest of the ride for us, which I appreciated. And not just for us, for everybody who got evacuated. They evacuated everybody out back through the way they came, which was awesome of them. We did get to ride Mickey and Minnie's. They did give us, there's no fast passes right now, but they still give you a fast pass, and because it's Mickey and Minnie's, it was good for everything but Rise of the Resistance. There really was not waits for anything, so we used it for Mickey and Minnie's, and then we rode Mickey and Minnie's again. Ride is awesome, awesome, awesome stuff. Whether you want to go during the pandemic or after, definitely is worth experiencing. Other than that, a little anomaly we noticed is the whole time we were in Hollywood Studios, it always said that Rock and Roller Coaster and Tower of Terror had at least a 25-minute wait. And it seems like maybe that has to do with those rides kind of being like late 90s, like the first generation of computerized rides, that might be the shortest possible queue time they can list, because those were both true walk-ons all day, and they always said 25 minutes. So that was kind of interesting. And so we had a great time at Hollywood Studios. The crowds it was definitely not crowded, but it was not like Animal Kingdom, but it felt emptier to us than Magic Kingdom. We were able to do everything during the morning, but I just spent a ton of time in Galaxy's Edge, as much as I could, in the morning, in the afternoon, just taking it all in as a huge Star Wars fan, being able to be there with very, very limited capacity. It was a different experience. I still want to do it, quote unquote, as normal, but it was amazing to be able to kind of explore almost empty Galaxy's Edge. They don't have the walk around characters, but they have some places where the characters will walk around on like the second level of like low buildings and stuff, or come out on this like kind of scaffolding thing that they have over the speeder garage, and do some interactions. So that was very cool. We did end up being able to go to Oga's. We waited out in front of Oga's to get our to try to get our Rise boarding group, and there was some people who were some kind of important Disney people, because in Galaxy's Edge, the Galaxy's Edge cast members never break character, but there were several older men and women not dressed as cast members, dressed in like business casual clothes, but had Disney name tags with a lot of the like star and number like years of service awards on them, who Galaxy's Edge cast members were showing around and pointing out details, breaking character, which leads me to believe they were some kind of Disney executives, maybe possibly doing inspections of how things were going, after the first couple days of Hollywood Studios being open. And one of those groups happened to be next to us while we were trying to get our Rise Pass. And we walked up and asked the woman checking reservations at Oga's, and she was like able to do a little Disney magic with those people there. And as long as we were willing to go in and have our alcoholic Oga's beverages at 10:30 in the morning, we were given a 40-minute time slot at Oga's, which was very nice of those cast members. It was very, very cool to be in there. It definitely lives up to the hype. The drinks were very good and very interesting, and I can't wait to go back. So that was our Hollywood Studios experience. Overall, super, super, super positive. We loved it. Hollywood Studios definitely, for me, I think was really, really lacking until Toy Story Land and Galaxy's Edge were done, and now it is a super complete park. Absolutely not a half-day park anymore.
No,
and,
the only thing obviously it's missing is the shows and stuff. There's not.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. But I just mean in general, overall.
Yeah. For adults like us, there's enough to do, but like my son could only go on Mickey and Minnie's and Toy Story Mania, and then we kind of stuck him on Alien Swirling Saucer, which was a little scary. But yeah, overall, I mean, I'm missing the shows at Hollywood Studios, but hopefully they will be back soon.
Yeah, definitely missing Fantasmic.
Yes.
And also missing Woody's Lunchbox. One of the best probably the best in-park quick service on property. Sadly, not open. Probably because the tables are attached to the ground, so they couldn't distance them. But man, that is a big loss to Hollywood Studios, because Hollywood Studios has real bad quick service food.
Yes.
Except for Docking Bay. Docking Bay is good, unless you have like a Bub and Jordana palette, because then everything is kind of weird and foreign seeming. That's the point. All right. So anyway, enough about me blathering on about Star Wars and how great it is. This is the park we skipped. Yeah. Just real quick, I'll hand it to Jordana to talk about, because she actually was there. I think even if there wasn't a pandemic, the Epcot sucks right now, and this is from somebody who historically, Epcot is my absolute favorite park. It's why I love Disney the way I do. It's why I love the parks. I think right now Epcot is an absolute disaster, a mess. It needs all the things that they're adding to it, it needs them yesterday. And with the budget cuts, I am very, very scared. If anybody's been paying attention to the parks blog and stuff, they did put the new entrance fountain monoliths in this week, which is a good sign. But man, something needs to happen fast to that park.
Oh my God, yeah.
It was the easiest decision ever when we just were trying to decide between a resort day and another park day, that we would rather hang out at the Poly all day than walk around Epcot, because there's not anything that interests us. So how was actually going to the Epcot after I'm so negative about it?
So the day that we had to take the bus to Epcot, the only thing that besides to walk to was like Spaceship Earth. And then after you get there, you have these massive walkways where it's like seems so much longer than if they weren't there, like boarded up. It's just it's ridiculous to try to get to where Finding Nemo is, or to try to get to like Mission Space Test Track over there. It's just
so both sides of the old Innovations buildings are now demolished.
They're both boarded up.
So it's just massive construction walls all the way down.
Massive, like that whole entranceway is awful. But the other day when we went in our other Epcot day, when we took the Skyliner, didn't seem so bad because we didn't really hang out in that area. Both days I can say, because Future World and that whole area is just a huge construction site. It's just an eyesore. It's not very magical. So we decided to mostly hang out in the countries. And then we went, we did Soarin' and Figment and all that stuff. But it's just, it's just such an eyesore. It's not, the pictures come out awful because you have walls everywhere. But we did have lots of great food. We did food and wine, delicious drinks. I texted the guys at 11 o'clock in the morning. I was like, look at me having a margarita. Like, obviously, what else would I be doing at 11 o'clock in the morning? But rides here, mostly all of them were only at 5 minutes. And the only one that was not was Test Track, obviously. Frozen too, but we went. When we got in line, it was about 40 minutes, and Guy was I was waiting in the shade with Sal. Guy was around the building at Norway, like outside and around Akershus. But 40 minutes actually only took us about 20, so that wasn't too bad. It seems longer with the social distancing, as I said before. And most of the indoor queue is shut down in Frozen because a lot of it was kind of like weaving in and out. So they closed down about half of it. So there's a lot of social distancing measures there. And then the little Norway bakery thing is closed. So there was no Viking iced coffee, which is our favorite. But yeah,
I would have been mad because I'm a pro school bread person. I don't remember where you fall on that, but I need my school bread on an Epcot day. We're big Viking iced coffee. If you don't know what a Viking iced coffee is, it's pretty much iced coffee with Kahlua in it. So that was just always it was always one of our first stops at Epcot. So we were kind of bummed at that bakery was closed as well. What I can say is that there's still a lack of entertainment. Jose was back on the Mexican ride, the Donald Duck Mexican ride. That wasn't so. I mean, that happened. I don't know if you weren't there. It was down when you were there, but I was there. I did see the blog post that he had fallen over and then he was removed
there. We walked around the countries. I'm missing the live entertainment, that they had, street performers, stuff like that. I think we did walk by Japan. They had the drummers.
Did they? Interesting.
Yeah, they did have them one day. But we just walked by pretty quickly.
That is a good sign because their contract was terminated very early in the pandemic, and there was question of if they were even going to come back. So if they're there and they're drumming, that's a good sign. I know also the mariachi band was back, right?
I mean, they're very high up, too. Obviously, they can distance themselves, and I don't know if there was only one or two drummers, but like I said, we only walked by pretty quickly. But yeah, no, I think it is good signs as far as entertainment coming back, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, I agree that Epcot's a total shit show right now.
And what was your experience with Food and Wine? Was it so sparsely attended that the distancing wasn't a problem? Or our fear was also that it was going to be a free-for-all with Food and Wine with people taking their masks off to eat, and you end up with like a whole world showcase full of unmasked people.
No, not at all. The thing was too, I never had to wait in line. I always just went up to the counter. There was never a line at any of the places. So it was just completely empty. And the times where we did see people eating or where we were eating, everybody kind of stayed in their own corner again. And, you know, I think the enforcing of where you have to take your mask off and you're not walking around, you have to stay in the same area. I think it really came in force here. So, again, I didn't really see any issues with it, like you would think, but it really wasn't that bad.
All right, yeah. So I think that covers Epcot. Would you recommend if somebody was on the fence right now, well, if somebody was going to skip a park like we did, which park would you tell them to skip?
This is a tough question because, like, honestly, we have another trip coming up in February where we're only probably going to do 3 park days, and we're like, well, which one do we skip? And right now we're between Hollywood Studios and Epcot, actually, because we're just missing all the shows at Hollywood Studios, which is something we could do with our son, and right now we can't. And then Epcot, there's just so much construction going on. It's just, it's where Hollywood Studios was 2 years ago. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So there's just minimal. I mean, there's still rides and stuff, and you still have obviously all the countries around World Showcase, but it's still just kind of like it's such an eyesore. It's tough to actually enjoy Future World and stuff like that.
So I mean that's a good point you brought up, kind of about Hollywood Studios. Last week we talked about, does Disney have a teen problem? But Hollywood Studios of all the parks is the most complete park now. There's nothing on the horizon. There's just the Woody's Roundup barbecue restaurant, which doesn't really add anything of note other than another dining location. That park is in a state that it's probably going to be in for the next 10 years, and there's not anything for kids under a certain age really to do at that park.
Right.
I mean, even when things come back, there's a couple shows. There's Lightning McQueen's Racing Academy, but it's really a park that's about these big thrills and these big cinematic experiences now that don't suit under 40-inch kids very well at all. And even if they can go on the rides, that their understanding of them is not going to be great. So yeah, those are things to consider. That kind of takes us to the last step on our trip, which is the departure day, the worst day of any Disney trip. Second worst. I think the worst day is when you get back to the room and that Magical Express binder is on the bed, which also we should touch on that, speaking of on the bed. So currently they are doing what they're calling light mousekeeping, where they're only coming every other day or so unless you request more. They will come every day if you want them to refresh towels every day at your request. And they also, you can still opt out of mousekeeping, but they are not giving you the gift card like they normally do.
Right.
If you opt out, you are just opting out because you do not want a stranger in your room.
Which is what we did.
So we did not. We were fine with it. They did come every day. That might just be with the deluxes. If you don't opt out, they assume you want it, and they want to keep that level of service. And the other thing is, if you do opt out, at least once for every 5 to 7 days, somebody will come into your room for a security check. That's just kind of a legal thing after the unfortunate incident in Las Vegas a couple years ago. Basically, any hotel over a certain number of rooms is going to have to do a room check at some point during a week. So they try to plan that for when you're out of your room, but if you're doing a resort-only stay, they'll knock on your door. They'll say, hey, we need a security check. You say, all right, well, come back in a little bit. Or they'll say, hey, we're going to come in, and they ask for you to leave the room for everybody involved's safety so that the strangers are not intermixing in the same confined space.
Right.
But, yeah, that's that. So you've gotten your binder. You're departing. How was your departure experience?
So the only thing I kind of had issues with, again, is like Disney doesn't have their airline check-ins right now at the resort currently. So we had to bring our luggage with us. And I can say always tip the Magical Express driver because he was throwing our stroller and our 3 suitcases in all by himself as well as with everybody else's. We were dropped off, again, with Orlando International. We were dropped off on side B, had to get to side A to check in and do our luggage drop off. And at least we didn't have to switch floors because it was all on the main floor. Magical Express drop off is always kind of a little bit too early. We got dropped off like 3 hours before our flight, and then security only had a 3 to 7 minute wait. So it was a little unnecessarily early. I wish they would have kind of moved it so that it wasn't such a gap, because then we're kind of just waiting in the airport somewhere where it's a little bit more public, obviously. And just that's the only thing I could say. But our flight home was great, Southwest again. And but that's all I have to say about that. How was your departure?
Very, very similar. On the way back, we did experience a much more typical Magical Express like you guys had. They picked us up. The bus was half as full as it was going to be with the row in between people. Interestingly, our driver was not assigning people rows. People kind of were taking it upon themselves to put a gap between each other, but that didn't make us feel great. Mm-hmm. But they got us at the Poly and a couple other people. Then they went to the Grand Floridian and the rest of the deluxes. So on the Seven Seas Lagoon Deluxes, Wilderness Lodge, Grand Floridian, Fort Wilderness. So it did end up being a as full as the Magical Express is going to be in this day and age.
Right.
We had our luggage with us. Same thing. I think that's just Disney's policy is they have to get you to the airport 3 hours early because technically you're supposed to be at the airport 2 hours early for a domestic flight, and Disney estimates that the Magical Express trip can take up to an hour to get to MCO because they got to account for possible traffic.
Right.
So we also got there super unnecessarily early, just like you. We did have a pretty late at night flight. So we got there. We just got some dinner from the that little food court that's right by the Southwest Terminal, and we tried to distance ourselves. Same thing. It does stink being in a pretty public place like that for that length of time, but we kind of tried to find a corner and hide out. And uneventful flight home. We got into Hartford super late. There was nobody there. Got our car, drove home, and went to bed. But other than that, that was our trip. It sounds like that was your trip.
Yeah, there it is.
So the last thing we want to do is any of you guys who are crazy enough or bold enough to do one of these COVID trips to Disney, if you think that's the right thing for you or for your family, we just want to give you some tips. So we'll go back and forth for some. What do you got?
One of my big tips, which I didn't really even think of, is bring multiple masks for the day. And this, I know some people bring an extra shirt to change into throughout that halfway mark, but I felt like I was, especially like the paper masks where they just kind of feel like they're disintegrating. I had changed my mask probably like 2 or 3 times a day, just from I'm like, I have a massive amount of face sweat, and obviously our last day was 110 degrees. So it literally, I had to change it. It was disgusting. So, so I would definitely suggest to bring multiple masks. And Disney is making masks like they're just accessories now. So it's just another thing that Disney is selling. So if you don't have multiple, they are down there for $6 each.
Yeah. Yeah. And even if you're a cloth mask person, like we like the cloth masks at home.
Yep.
We also got a thing of the paper masks from Costco, so we could just throw a packet of the paper masks in my backpack every day. And if we had to switch, even if it's not just like a heat thing, it rains in Florida all the time, and if your mask gets wet, you really can't keep wearing it. It's very hard to breathe through. It's miserable. So we definitely switch them out. And staying on that mask thing, my tip is practice. If you don't wear a mask often at home, or even if you do wear a mask often at home, you probably don't wear it for nearly as long as you're going to wear it in the parks. Disney is requiring you to wear a mask basically from the moment you step foot on Disney property until the moment you leave, unless you are seated and eating or at a pool. So you need to be used to wearing a mask for 10 to 12 hours a day.
Right.
So practice that mask wearing before you get home.
Absolutely.
Before you get there while you're at home. You have any other tips for people?
No, I pretty much think I had covered everything. Do you have any tips?
Yeah, I think, as I said, be flexible. That is super important. Do whatever a cast member tells you to. If you have a problem with it, just comply and then bring it up to them after, or bring it up to guest relations. Just assume that you're being asked to do something for the right reasons. Make sure that you have My Disney Experience downloaded before you get there. It's more important than ever. Even with the reduced capacity, the in-park Wi-Fi still sucks. So, make sure your data, think about turning Wi-Fi off. This is especially important for trying to snag those Rise of Resistance boarding passes. If you're on in-park Wi-Fi, there's a very good chance you are not going to be able to get through, especially that first 10 a.m. push.
Yes.
For them. Let's see. Is there anything else? No, just yeah. I think we covered pretty much everything else here in the show. Feel free to reach out to me on Facebook or about any questions about this or anything at all, or anything specific about our experience. And you can reach out to Janet either through her Facebook or the show Facebook or her Travel Nation email. And if you are going to book a trip, you should definitely do what I did and book it through Travel Nation. They were lovely, and they will help you out as much as they can. But do remember, as Jordan mentioned, anything that requires you to read and acknowledge that COVID liability waiver statement, your travel agent will not be able to book for you. So Jordan or any Travel Nation agent is more than happy to help you walk through that, but you got to be the one clicking the button.
Ooh.
So, anything else, or is
No, I think that is going to wrap it up for this week's episode, answering the question of should you go to Disney in 2020? If you have any feedback, questions, or comments, please email us at thedisneyguysuncensored@gmail.com. We hope you enjoyed the show, and thanks for listening to The Disney Guys Uncensored.
May Walt Disney World bring joy and inspiration and new knowledge to all who come to this happy place.